Hey guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing a review of a horror comedy from France in the French language English subs, released in the year 2014, directed by Thierry Paraud and Benjamin Rocher, and this film is called Goal of the Dead. So Goal of the Dead is about football or soccer, depending on what part of the world you're in, and you've got this main character who is a superstar for his local football team. It's a very small team, and he has dreams of making it to the big leagues in France. So his dream comes true when he's recruited. So he leaves his hometown and he goes to the big leagues, and this is where he starts to realise that maybe he's not as good as he thought he was. And he starts to become very bitter about this, and he starts to become miserable. So one day there is the draw for the French Cup that has his new team up against his old team. So he sees it as an easy match, but it's going to be good because he's going to be able to go back to his hometown and he's going to get the credit he deserves and the recognition he deserves, and he's going to be treated like a rock star, or at least that's what he thinks. But when he goes to the game, the hometown treat him as a traitor. They say that he shouldn't have left, and they're booing and heckling him at every given opportunity, so it's not the way he was hoping it turned out. Then things are going to be further complicated because at halftime there is a zombie apocalypse. Now this zombie apocalypse forces the game to be abandoned. The surviving players go back to the dressing rooms and they have to come up with a game plan in order to try and save the town and get out of here alive. So whether or not he can make it up to his hometown, get them out of this predicament, that's something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Goal of the Dead. I actually thought this was a very interesting idea that the movie had, and the thing I liked about the idea the most was the symbolisation of football hooligans. Now the zombies I thought were very similar to football hooligans. Now if you're familiar with football in Europe, and especially here in South America, it's been plagued by football hooligans. Hooligans who go to the games with the intention of destroying things if their team doesn't win. So it's the passion that comes to boiling point and they can't control their emotions. And so I thought the actual comparison with the zombies with the football hooligans was very smart. And I actually thought, it's not far from the truth. These hooligans are overtaken by their emotions, and it actually feels like they've become someone that they're not. And they're going along, they're smashing their own stadium up, they're beating other people up, and it actually feels like they're zombies. So the movie Goal of the Dead, I wasn't expecting that, and I thought it was a very smart underlying sort of social commentary on the way that football is in Europe and South America. And so I thought that was a deliberate ploy, and that is by far the most interesting part of the film. Unfortunately, as far as positives are concerned, that was the only real positive I had. Now, French horror films, they're known for going to extreme lengths, they're known for breaking the boundaries, but this movie feels like it's confined to the boundaries, and it feels like it doesn't know where it wants to go, and it's the curse of the two directors. It felt like Benjamin Rocher had one idea, Thierry Paraud had another idea, and they couldn't unify those ideas to the point where it felt like an overall rewarding experience. So the movie goes for 140 minutes, and I actually felt there was a lot of unnecessary value in the film because it does take a long time to build up the characters, but the characters aren't that likeable. So you think to yourself, for a film of this nature, it's trying to do something that it really doesn't have to do. So it felt like it was a movie that really wasn't self-aware. It's a movie called Goal of the Dead. We don't want an insight into a character. We don't want to feel sorry for these characters. We want to see characters getting eaten by zombies, and unfortunately there is just not enough of that. 140 minutes, remarkably, this movie doesn't have a lot of gore for a French horror standard, especially considering the fact that Benjamin Rocher was the director of the brilliant The Horde, which is a fantastic French zombie film. So for that reason I thought this movie was going to splash a lot of insane action and gore along, but it doesn't. It just gets bogged down in unnecessary value, and I think that this movie should have been edited down by about an hour, and that would have been a lot better, because the movie, as I said, has that social commentary on football in Europe and South America, and then cutting it down considerably, that would have been enough to make it an enjoyable experience and a different experience. But what you get is just this really overly long film that feel like it really should have been edited a lot more. It felt like there was a lot of stuff there that didn't quite work. It was supposed to be a horror comedy. I thought the comedy, it worked in places. I thought the gore, it was there. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a film that doesn't deliver any gore, but for 140 minutes you'd expect it to have a lot more than it does. So when it actually happens, it looked decent. It was more a case of seeing the aftermath of a kill rather than actually seeing it graphically, so that was a bit disappointing. But it actually felt just like a very inconsistent film as well. So there were some good moments, but then there was just a lot of unnecessary moments where it just dragged along, and as I said, it needed to be edited. So it was wasn't a terrible movie, but as far as a French horror film is concerned, I was expecting a lot more. So there are likeable qualities to it. The cinematography is actually very well done. It actually feels like a European style of film, and it actually feels like a horror film, but it wasn't that scary, wasn't that funny, and for a horror comedy you definitely need more than that. So overall, to summarise, way too long, too much dedication to stuff that really didn't matter, that didn't needed a lot more self-awareness, and probably would have benefited from one director only. And as a result of that, I'm going to give Goal of the Dead 2.5 stars. Not going to recommend it so much if you're a fan of French horror, because I can see a lot of people being disappointed by it, but if you want to give it a shot, then as I said, there are some moments that work, but the majority of it doesn't work, so it feels like it just didn't need to be there. So that's my review for Goal of the Dead. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.